I was just asking God, what should I be discussing right now as I record the video? It's about to be daybreak, and I came outside to just listen to my spirit, but I felt like I wanted to talk about whatever God wanted to mention. What would He lead on my heart to speak? And right now, what I'm feeling like I want to talk about is the past few days I have been witnessing how God has really unfolded situations that me, myself, family, and all were trying to come about how things were going to work out. Okay, for example, my mom, myself, and my son. I made a trip to come back to my hometown and, spend a few days and go back. But I took the flight here and I'm driving back because I had a vehicle parked. So I said I was going to drive my vehicle back. And my mom, she didn't want me to drive back by myself. So she volunteered my son. And my son, being the type of person he is, he's a very compassionate. You could count on him. He's dependable. He's just that son, that person you could always call on. But I guess this is something within himself he's going to have to learn how to balance, and which he is learning how to balance. Because as we discuss maturing as spiritual beings, it's things that we have to do even regarding our most close-knit loved ones, on learning to say no and not feel guilty or feeling like we have to do it. We're going to hurt their feelings. Or just feeling like it's something that you have to do. Whether it's a job, whether it's a relationship, whether it's your siblings, whether it's your maternal or paternal, whatever the case may be, we're not ever, as human beings, put under any restrictions that require us to go against who we are, what we stand for, what we believe, what our conscience, our heart wants to do. That's not who we are as human beings, especially human beings that live spiritually, that recognize the spirit being before the human being. We were always a spiritual being, but since we're here in this realm, we're a human being. But you never want to allow the human to go above the spiritual being. But that takes time, growth, learning. That's a process to live a life spiritually before humanly. But anyway, what my topic is on allowing God to unfold situations, because what the example I was getting ready to get is 3 people involved: my son, myself, and my mom. My mom is a very heart giving person, but she's also a queen of her house. Basically, it's her dominion, her word, whatever. And she's really not one that you want to tell no. So my mom automatically volunteered my son to drive back with me, and he catch a plane back home. But this is the holidays. My son could have had plans with his girlfriend, could have had plans working overtime. Who knows what his agenda was this vacation or this holiday season? Who knows what he had planned? My mom didn't ask. My mom just ran with it on this young man's time, space, and all. So he didn't tell her, no, Grandma, I have other plans. Could you ask maybe the other 5 brothers I have? So I observed the situation. I assumed my son was very willingly wanting to go. Wanting to. I didn't know that he didn't. I didn't really know his heart. He didn't share it. I just assumed he was going along with the plan that my mom made. So a couple of days then went by now. He was supposed to call the airport and start scheduling his plane flight, so my mom can know how much money to get and this and that to pay for his ticket and stuff. But it's going on a couple of days. You ain't did it yet, son. So I started observing what was going on. I say, my gosh, my son real slow at doing what he's supposed to do. So I went and approached him. I said, Keenan, I noticed you haven't made your reservations for your plane ticket. Is this something you want to do? Or do you want to go? He said, Mom, no, I don't. I said, well, what are you doing then? Well, Grandma just volunteered me. No, son, no. So little bit by little bit, okay, now we know this is not what you want to do. So before I left where I was like, man, I wish my mom can come back with me and spend a couple of days and she catch a flight back. But I guess I didn't ask her to come back with me and she catch a plane back because, excuse me, maybe one of the reasons I didn't ask my mom to come back home with me and stay a few days and go back, maybe I was ashamed of my home because I'm in a fixer-upper home. Things ain't really that convenient like you got in your well-made-up home. No, my home is a home in progress where there are things where we're living basically without the comfortable situation in a home environment. So that's probably one of the reasons why I didn't ask her to come back home with me. So, and maybe a couple of more added to that. But the way the situation unfolded, since now we know my son don't want to go, and no, baby, God always have rams in the bushes. You don't have to ever feel like you're just because it is your grandmother. No, you could tell your grandmother in love, no, Grandma, I got plans. Could you maybe try my other brothers or whatever? Leave that between her and God, or me and God, or whatever. God got this. You don't ever have to feel like you got to do something that you don't truly want to do. Okay, so now that we know my son doesn't want to go back home and drive back home with me, my mom comes to me later on that day and say, why don't I go back with you? And I ask my friend, do she want to go? And we stay a couple of days and then we'll catch the flight back. Bingo. That's what I wanted all anyway from the beginning of the situation. So it's like, if we just sit back and allow God to really handle situations, follow our heart, we will see God come through to where sooner or later, when the situation unfolds, everybody can be pleased. We're all a win-win situation here. It's like nobody is doing anything that they don't want to do. And it's been multiple situations that I'm just amazed at how, if you sit back and just wait a moment or two and watch God work the situation out, when there isn't total agreement between whoever is involved, just sit back and wait before making final decisions and watch it truly unfold. It's like, I don't know if we feel like we're pressured with time. It's like we got to learn to submit to time. Time is something we deal with, not with what God deals with. Things don't move on when we learn to submit to this thing called time, surrender to this thing called time, and not be a captive of it, but to flow with the time frequency of allowing God. It's so scary, but it's so free. It's so free because things don't go according to our plan, our schedule, the finances, the people involved aren't getting on board. It's so many different reasons of why it's time to surrender, submit. Just sit back and relax. Be free. Be at rest. And I'm believing that time is one of the final things that the spiritual beings, Mother Nature, creation of all, I believe time is one of the last things that God is waiting for us to catch up with. You know, the evolving of the human turning spiritual being more predominant of our lives, living spiritually more than humanly. I believe that's taking place as we speak. We know this is on and rolling, and the ball is it's happening. And I think the last thing God is really focusing on in my spirit is regarding time. Being set free from the clock, being set free from the structure of this world and its time sequence. When we get into the time of God's time, which there is no time, it is when it happens. Time is always now. And when we relax and enjoy the now, peaceful moment of the now, I believe that's what Mother Nature is waiting on the humans to catch up to, the divine time frequency, which is now. And there's always peace right now. There's always rest right now. The Bible say that nature groans and travaileth as a woman having a baby. waiting on man, humans, to catch up with this thing. They're waiting on us. And I believe time is one of the final phases of humans really starting to live a spiritual life. It's not so much of what we do, this and that. We're getting to the point where we're just being who we are. We're just being, and not so much doing, thinking that's what qualifies us to be even spiritual. When we release all of the qualifications of a spiritual being, it's time for us to rest, and it's time for us to submit to the divine revelation of humanity, the revelation of the God within us. It's just time for us to rest. And again, I believe the main focus, one of the main phases of what nature is waiting for man to catch up, I believe time, the focus of the time frequency of this world. And when we tap into the time frequency of God, which is always now, and there's always nothing that can or should take away the peace, the rest, when we've submitted and surrendered. It's not on our time, it's on God's time. It's in God's timing to unfold this human life. It's hard, but it's rest, it's peace, it's joy, it's love, it's fulfilling, it's everything we're asking for. Even though in our natural sight, we don't have it like we want it, see it like we want it, feel it like we want it. But that's that human nature. That's the human nature that's lacking. But that spiritual nature, nothing missing, nothing lacking, everything made whole. It's whole, it's there, it's complete. That's who we are. We are. I am all that we need. That's us. Okay, I believe we understand, and overstand what's being said. Have a blessed day.